So I started real estate because I was going to pay for travel baseball and one extra vacation a year.
Mhm.
So I really got into real estate truly. I thought it was a job that I could do part-time and be like a flexible mom. And I realized very quickly that it is possible to do it that way, but I couldn't do it my way that way because I just really didn't want to be a part-time agent, and I kind of just dove in very quickly. I realized this was not going to be a part-time gig. It was definitely going to be a full-time thing.
Yeah.
And something very early on that someone said to me that kind of just, I guess, drove me or like made me really understand was, first of all, no one has to buy a house with you. There's so many people for them to choose from. And what is it about you that's actually going to be different than the other 3,000 people in Baldwin County that they could choose from? And then helping sell a house, as soon as I realized the mindset shift, I wasn't actually selling houses. I was really just assisting and helping people realize what their real estate dreams and goals were, whether it was for somebody to actually be, buy a primary house for them and their family and their kids or whatever, or buy their first investment, or get that beach house that they've always wanted, or the condo, or even just the piece of land, that they saw future dreams and plans on. And once I realized that it was way more relationship and a lot less salesy, it kind of made it really more natural and easy for me to just like lean into it, because I was a little intimidated about being like the cheesy, pushy, like car salesman. I was like, I don't really want to be like a salesperson. And that is what is so unique and really fun about real estate is it's actually, you're not really selling anything. If you're selling anything, you're selling yourself.
Right.
You're not really selling a product. You're just educating people and helping them like connect with resources that they need. And sometimes they don't even know that they need to make their real estate goals come true. And so once it became relationships for me, that's just kind of where it all took off. And fostering a relationship for me was a lot easier than telling myself I was going to wake up today and help somebody buy something.
Exactly.
So
because houses come and go, and you can't promise a specific product.
Right. Like it's not like I can like, oh, let me go to my warehouse and like pull out another one. Like it's not like selling lipstick and cookies. Like there's no like backup plan. So I really leaned into the relationship side of real estate, and that seemed to be something that made a difference for me.
Okay. So for someone starting out, where do you find those relationships? How do you, in other words, acquire leads as a new agent?
I think I kind of have a unique approach, and maybe I don't, but I think the way you find a lead or help find buyers and sellers is really in the stuff that you already do. If you already have relationships in your church, then you lean into your church people. If you already are involved with like kids activities or your own personal like hobbies, like you lean into those people, because again, like the number one like starter to connecting on a relationship with somebody is just having something in common. Mm-hmm. So I kind of leaned into the friends I had started to make through my kids, and then I was affiliated with several volunteer organizations, and I just kind of leaned into those. And once people start to like and know you in an area where they are comfortable and things that they have in common with you, it's really easy for them to then start to like count on you and ask you questions about something maybe they don't know as much about, and in this case like real estate.
Yeah. And so you started your career at a larger chain brokerage, and while you were there you climbed the ranks all the way through to the top. But now you've since stepped out and decided to make your own business and your own company. How has your roles changed as an agent through there, and kind of what things are you doing differently that led you to make that jump and to still be successful today as an agent?
I never intended to be a broker, and I certainly never intended to be a broker of a really large brokerage. And that kind of just all happened, and I will be forever grateful to that huge brokerage that gave me all those chances. They started believing in me way before I started believing in me, and they kind of forced me into a few uncomfortable leadership positions, if you will, like go into this training, or hey, can you teach this class, or hey, can you let this agent shadow you for a few days and see how that goes. And next thing I know, like it just kind of kept building. And once I kind of made it to the top, if that's what we want to call it, once I kind of became the broker and kind of got to see and understand the business from like a larger perspective and more of like that bird's eye view, I really saw things that I really, really appreciated and loved about that big box brokerage, and that they definitely were doing well and doing right, if you will. And then I saw a few things that I was like, it's not that it doesn't work. I just don't know if it works for me and how I want to see my future in real estate. And so finding a business partner and exploring what it would look like to kind of take the things that we really liked, but then take the things that we didn't like and alter them to something that better fit us and our clients and the way that we operated. And then really the whole opening my own brokerage really stemmed from I fell in love with mentorship, and my whole career blossomed when I started helping other people find their passion in real estate. And that's really why I wanted to open my own brokerage, because I wanted to continue to pour into other agents and help them find their success and find their goals and reach, their full potential. And I felt like a small brokerage where I could be really hands-on and there wasn't all these like larger brokerage distractions gives me a lot more time and a lot more space to be able to really like pour into the agents that I've invited along on this little ride of this. And I started a brokerage really for other people.
Right.
I could be a successful single agent and go work for somebody else and make plenty of money for my family, and that would be fulfilling. But I am truly far more fulfilled helping other agents find their passion and what they're good at, and even help them develop skills that they're not as good at and see them succeed. That's far more fulfilling.
Yeah. I think I've definitely noticed kind of a shift when you work with a lot of repeat clients now. So you're not like attacking new people, like really outreaching now, because you've changed a lot of your focus to mentoring the people around you. If you had to advise a new agent or just a general entrepreneur, do you think it'd be more beneficial to still start at some of those big box places, or maybe try to find a personal mentor?
I think, again, just like finding a successful career and developing relationships with clients, I think it's equally important to develop a relationship with the people that you work with. It's always more fun to work with people that you like, if you will, on some sort of a level, but also people that you can connect with. And I know when I surround myself with other people that are like-minded like I am and have similar interests and similar work habits and similar drive, it kind of like drives me to continue to like try to grow and climb. And you don't want to let them down. And I'm definitely more of a team player. And I think in real estate it can be a very lonely business, and I think there's a lot of incredible single agents that make a lot of money and sell a ton of houses, but they probably feel very lonely because they really are in it for the most part by themselves. And I equally enjoy the relationship side on the work side as much as I do like on the client face-to-face side. So for me, I don't think that I'd have longevity in real estate just being some top producing single agent.
Right.
I just don't, I like the like team mentality and like the big growth and leaning on other people and then having them lean on me. It kind of holds me accountable.
Yeah. So you've got a big goal this year at your brokerage. You just started last August, and your goal this year is to be top of the top 25 brokerages in the county.
Out of almost 350.
I think you told me too that some 93% of agents didn't sell but like anything last year.
Less than 90% sold. I want to say it's zero, and like the next, and like 93 and below sold 1 or 0. So there's a very small pool of people and agents and brokerages doing a majority. Yeah, but
to date you've done multiple millions worth of sales already in just the birth of this company.
Yeah, we have been very successful, and I think a lot of that attributes to. It sounds funny, we really don't track our numbers. Yeah. We just focus on like how many families or how many investors or how many people can we serve and how many people can we show up for?
Mhm.
And then the numbers just kind of happen. And we celebrate all of the successes, whether they're little teeny tiny deals that don't have necessarily a large like dollar amount attached to them, just as much as we celebrate the large dollar amounts. Yeah, and I mean, we have a big goal. I would love to be in the top 25 out of all 340-ish plus or minus brokerages for the year. We're a little behind, but everybody here is definitely working really hard to, and ultimately, I mean, we can all make goals with numbers and spreadsheets, but my number one goal is for every single agent in our office at the end of this year to be ahead of where they were at the beginning of this year.
For sure.
And that would be a win for me.
Definitely. Especially the numbers can be weird at times like this with weird economy stuff happening, weird
market
geopolitical
shifts
things happening.
Yep.
But what would you say is like the one thing that keeps agents going in these times, and companies like yours and agents like yours that are in the top 7% producing, even in a first year business?
Again, I think it's the relationships. I think it's the tears in your first time home buyer's face at the closing table, getting to buy their house they never thought they would buy. I think it's the tears from a collection of siblings selling off, their parents' home after they've passed away and they're closing that chapter and moving on. It's the hugs of appreciation for answering their texts and their calls late at night, or showing up 5 Saturday mornings in a row to work around their work schedule so they could, look at houses or whatever. And for me, that definitely keeps me motivated. And I hope that all of the agents that work alongside of me find that to be equally as important and also as motivating, because, home ownership is such a unique thing, and it's such a big deal, and it's such a huge milestone. I mean, I look at myself as pretty lucky to be a part of such a huge milestone for people in their life. I mean, some people only buy maybe 2-3 houses their whole life, and you get to put your name on the paper and say that you are a part of it. And it's a pretty big deal.
I'd agree. I think it's definitely one of the most fulfilling things to hand over the keys at closing day, especially to a first-time home buyer. Yeah. When they, they're moving out of a crappy apartment or their parents' house, right? And the sense of freedom and the success that they feel for
or the first house that 2 young people buy after they get married, or the first house that somebody is upgrading to because now they had their first kid and they're ready for that extra space. The first time, and then the flip side, some people, they go through really hard, scary, bad phases of life, and it's like helping that newly single mom get her feet back on the ground, or helping that new dad who just is trying to find his way, and helping the widow move on and close that chapter from the house they shared with their loved one for 40 years. It's pretty cool that we get to be a part of all of these different milestones for people, and that's just our everyday.
Yeah. So I know we've talked about this before, kind of, a lot of people would argue that the summertime is a busy time. You would like to say the opposite, actually, that the off seasons tend to be your busy seasons. And I guess in a way to put it, what's a punchy word of advice? What's your mantra that keeps you going, that makes you different, that can inspire?
I guess I just like hard things. I don't know. I enjoy a good challenge, and I see 100 people going left. I'm like, hey, let's go right and figure it out. It's funny. It has worked out the last few years. Some of my top months have been January and December, which historically are most agents' typical slower months, right? Yeah. I guess I like hard things and hard times and challenges, and I love to prove somebody wrong. That's been my whole life, though.
Yeah.
If somebody tells me I can't wait to show you, and I don't even have to tell you. I'm just going to smile and do it anyway. And I think maybe that's why I've always found success in the weird times.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I can't seem to sell a house in the month of July. I don't know. I love a good challenge, and I love being different, and I love to do something differently than what everybody else expects.
It's awesome.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
I'm really excited to be a part of this with you, and appreciate you coming on today, talking about all this stuff. I think you've got a really bright future, and I think this company has amazing potential.
I am super excited. I mean, we have a long way to go, but it's fun to be kind of part of like the ground level and see all of us kind of coming in and coming together from different backgrounds and different walks of life and different stages of life, and kind of all make a little family. And
well, what's our age range? I mean, we've got 23
to 70.
70. So.
And it's everything in between. We've got moms and dads and singles and marrieds and all the things in between, and it's a lot of fun. And I think that also speaks to just who I hope that I'm creating, and what Chase, my business partner, is contributing, is that we want to be somewhere where everybody could be successful here if they're willing to put their head down and do the work, and just don't be afraid. And that's a big thing Chase and I have always leaned into, is like, don't be afraid, don't hear the no.
Definitely.
And don't slow down. It is going to happen. You just don't slow down.
I've always had that same mindset of the persistence. Like, you see everything just doom and gloom online about this is worse than 2008. The housing market's ridiculous. Interest rates are through the roof. But people are still buying. And if you're persistent,
people are buying and people are selling, and it's never going to stop buying, and they're never going to stop selling. Life is always happening, and it may be a little more expensive this year than it was last year. Last year might have been more expensive than it is this year, and it might go up and it might go down, but everybody always needs a place to live, and there's always room for somebody to grow. And, you know, I'm like the little famous guy at the old place I used to be. You know, the best time to buy a house was yesterday. Yeah. And, you know, I truly do believe that the best time to buy a house was yesterday.
Definitely. Regardless of what happens.
Yep, regardless of what happens.
My thing is, I see other people doing it, and I just have this complex that I don't believe that someone else can do something that I can't do it.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I can't do it, whatever you're doing. If there are successful agents out there, then there's definitely a path for me. I just got to find it.
Yeah. And leaning into your niche and what comes natural. Don't try things that don't feel right. If it doesn't feel good to sit on the phone and cold call, don't do it. If it doesn't feel right to walk up to strangers in the parking lot and hand out your business card, then don't do it. Like, find the things that work for you and lean into that, because people can read what's natural. And if it's not natural, they're going to be uncomfortable, which means they're not going to be vulnerable. And so you just lean into what works for you. There's a million roads to get to success, and you just have to find which one is yours.
Definitely. So the market's not oversaturated.
Never.
It's not coming down
in
flames.
Nope.
You just have to put your head down and find your people.
Find your people. And do your job well.
Your job well. Of course, the follow through, right?
Yeah. Show up and answer your phone.
Yes.
If you do that, you're halfway there.
Oh, you've told me personal stories about how you've been third in line, but you're the first one to answer the phone. So you've gotten the deal.
Yeah. And multiple times. Yeah. Yeah. Answering the phone is, you hate to say it's step one, but it's really steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, it really gets you really far ahead. Is just be there and available, and just be helpful.
Yeah.
Be kind, be courteous, be helpful, be resourceful. You know, I don't know, but I'll happily find out, and then go find out.
Definitely.
So it's definitely
figuring it out.
But
Don't let them know. Make it to you, make it, right?
Make it to you, make it. Yeah.
So I think a fun one, actually, what is your biggest horror story, deal or showing or client story that you have?
I will say, anytime naked people get involved, it's always a horror story. So I've been mentoring agents, and we were practice showing what should be vacant condos, and turned out to not be quite so vacant. That's probably, to this day, is the most horror story I've ever had. I have walked in on sleeping people. I have walked in on old people that were not told that there was a showing, or they claimed they weren't told. But yeah, I think, finding naked people in the shower is probably the most horrific it gets. I just don't think it gets worse than that. So that's probably ranks up there in my.
Do you have a favorite story, or maybe a most biggest sale?
Honestly, my favorite story, it may always be my very first listing. I was waiting to get my hair done. And so I was pacing my normal self, talking, because we know I can't talk on the phone and sit still. So I was talking on the phone, pacing in the parking lot of the hair salon, waiting for my appointment. And this older gentleman kept looking at me from the car, and it was a little awkward. And I was like, it's kind of weird, but I just kept doing my thing. As soon as I hung up, he gets out of his car, and then I was like, this is really awkward. And he immediately said, "Are you a real estate agent?" And I got really confused. And I was like, "Excuse me?" And he pointed to my name tag, and I was like, "Oh, yes, I am." And he said, "Do you sell houses in Spanish Fort?" And I was like, "Absolutely." Now, mind you, I had been licensed like maybe 60 days, so I didn't sell houses anywhere because I hadn't sold a house before. But today I sold houses in Spanish Fort. I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And he's like, "Great. Well, we just found out for my job I have to move to Florida, and we need a real estate agent to list our house in Spanish Fort, and we don't really know anyone here." And I was like, "Well, now you do." And I said, "Well, tell me about your house." And he's like, "Well, can you just come today?" Sure. Again, never sold a house. So the first thing I do is I get in my car. I started to do a happy dance, and then I panicked because I was like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I called my mentor. Thank goodness I had one, and he was great. And I called him and I said, "Hey, I have a listing appointment." He's like, "That's fantastic." I said, "The problem is it's in like 20 minutes. And he was like, "Oh, so not much time to prepare." I was like, "Nope, not a lot." So he actually kind of helped pull some comps for me over the phone while I was driving to there. I'm following these old people. Thank goodness they didn't like murder me or lock me in a closet. I just trusted them. And so I drove out to their house in Spanish Fort, and we had a whole little impromptu listing appointment. I kind of went over the process. They had a couple of questions. They were fantastic. We immediately just kind of clicked, and they were military, so we kind of just, leaned into that. And next thing you know, I had their house like on the market a week later, and I found the buyer at my first open house, which was 2 days later.
Nice.
I'm standing in my very first listing at a very first open house, and the first person that walks in the door walks in. He kind of looks around, and I was like, "Hey, can I help you?" And he was like, "Oh, I saw this house online. I just want to make sure it was as good in person as it was on the photos." And I was like, "Sure, take a look." And he looks for about 30 seconds, and he's like, "Yep, I'll buy it." I was like, "Great. Do you have a real estate agent?" He was like, "No, I was hoping you could do that." "Yeah, sure." And he goes, "Have you ever done that before?" "Absolutely, we can do that. No problem." Not a problem. "Do you have a lender?" "Nope, don't have one of those either." I shared him my favorite lender's phone number at the time, and he went to the driveway and filled out the application in the driveway while I finished up the open house. I got home that night, called him back on the phone, talked to the lender, made sure we were all squared away. He had everything he needed. We talked to him about some options. I had to then call my seller and ask them if they were even okay with me representing the buyer, and they were ecstatic. Yeah. And next thing you know, we are under contract. I had my very first buyer and my very first seller all in the same, 72 hours. And it was just one of those, I learned a lot. But from that moment, I realized how much the relationship mattered. Because clearly it was not my expertise. It was not my experience. It was not my plethora of 152 situations and how to solve them. Because I didn't have any of those things.
Right.
But I maintained spot on communication. I checked in with everybody. I looped in the lender. I hooked it up with the title company, and I was letting everybody know what parts were moving and what we needed to do and what came next and what to expect. And we get to the closing table, and it wasn't until that day that I finally told both my buyer and seller that they were my first people. And neither one of them believed. They were like, "I'm sorry, what?" And I was like, "Well, I didn't want to tell you before because I don't want you to worry." But, and I was like, "Good news." I'm like, "I'm at a great brokerage, great training, and I have a fantastic mentor who's been behind the scenes the whole time."
It worked.
And he was great. And congratulations, you've now bought your first house and you've now sold your house. And to this day, those sellers still, every so often, they will reach out to me. They don't even live here anymore. They will reach out to me. That's and in awesome. Fact, for our grand opening, they drove all the way from Florida. Really? Just to come give me a hug and say congratulations. Because that $205,000 first listing meant the world to them. That's and awesome. Obviously not the biggest house I've ever sold or the most expensive, but I'm at, I don't even know how many hundreds of transactions, and I still will never ever forget them or any of the details. I could probably tell you all the details. Yeah, we went under contract on Halloween and we closed December 5th. And I will never forget the experience. And it taught me really quickly that it really wasn't about being able to shoot out a bunch of facts or be able to say, like, "I've sold this many million" or "I've sold this many houses." It really is about leaning into the people and using your resources. Obviously, you can't be, negligent or, uninformed, but it was great. And like I said, they drove all the way from Florida just to give me a 5-minute hug and say congratulations on the brokerage, because it meant that much to them too.
Yeah.
And they will for always be my first seller I ever had.
That's sweet.
Yep. I love them. They're great.
Cool. Well, I won't take any more of your time today.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.